Good afternoon. This is Robert Ricks with the National Weather Service office in Slidell, Louisiana, with your weekly weather briefing. We do have a couple of features to talk about this briefing, mainly focused on Saturday and Sunday time frame, where the weather can get quite active for this Easter weekend. So to overview the situation right now, we do have a front that came through already, and we have good dry north winds moving into the area. And as a result of that, we actually managed to reach 90 degrees here at the office in the past hour, and that's quite quite warm for this time of year. And we're expecting some clouds to start returning back to the area overnight as a little disturbance tricks through the area, and that may trigger a few showers and isolated thunderstorms overnight. And most of that should move out before too much into the morning tomorrow. Then we turn to warm and breezy and humid conditions once again on Saturday as that front retreats back northward as a warm front. And with that begins the adventure and the excitement of the weekend. Looks like we do get a system that's currently off the California coast or moving into California at this time. We'll be moving into our area along the Gulf Coast region for Sunday, and that will bring some inclement weather and a strong risk of severe thunderstorms as well in the form of squall lines and prefrontal storms as it rolls through. So we'll look at that in a little more detail as far as timing and what to expect. Much cooler and drier for the first half of next week once we get this front through, and it'll feel pleasant, actually, much more like the spring conditions we should be having for this time of the year. And the other thing going on right now, of course, is the long-term Mississippi River flooding that we've been experiencing for the past month or so. And we'll talk about that and look at that a little closely as well. So looking at your 7-day threat outlook, you can see tonight we're looking at the green box for thunder is mainly for the overnight hours tonight and isolated in the pre-dawn hours and early morning hours for Friday. Aside from that, once that rolls through, the rest of the day Friday should be okay. Saturday is going to start off okay, but then that warm front comes through and there may be some occasional rumbles of thunder once that warm front gets a little more solidified as it moves north and out of our area during the day Saturday. And then the fun begins on Sunday when we get this main bulk of the system. It's going to really get its act together in Texas, and then as it rolls through West Louisiana and into our area in southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi, that's when some of the stronger squall line thunderstorms develop, and we'll look at that a little closely. Severe storm potential ramps up quite a bit right now. We'll look at what the Storm Prediction Center is showing here shortly. And then heavy rain threat. Earlier on, the models were indicating a little bit more of a heavier rain threat the past couple of days, but recently it seemed to have backed off. The front appears to be a little more progressive, a little faster moving, and as a result, the rain probably won't dwell over our area as long. But nonetheless, we could still get some much needed rain. So looking at our current watch and warning situation, we are fighting the Mississippi River flood, the spring flood that typically happens this time of the year, and it's gotten to the point where they did employ the partial opening of the Bonnet-Carré Spillway. They're opening a few gates at a time each day. And so that's kind of alleviating and keeping the levels at 17 feet at New Orleans, and that's going to be the case for the next week and a half to 2 weeks or so. Aside from that, that's the only hazards we have in effect right now. There will be a small craft advisory that goes in effect for the coastal waters tonight from 3 o'clock in the morning onward, because the winds will be picking up first from the north, and then eventually it'll be turning around from the east and southeast as we head into Friday and Saturday. So looking at the severe weather outlook for Sunday, since that is where the bulk of the weather is going to take place, we're looking at a 30% chance of severe potential from the Storm Prediction Center, and that usually equates, this is 4 days out, so when it gets a little closer, they'll start putting categorical conditions on there, and that would mean, usually that typically translates to an enhanced risk, maybe even a moderate risk for severe come Sunday during the daytime hours and into the evening hours. Along the coast itself, conditions seem a little less favorable, a little more modification of the air mass closer to the coast, and most of the dynamics that's going to be driving the weather will typically happen further north. But right now, the severe thunderstorm potential looks like it is for a large part of the area, but the risk does appear to be a little bit lower closer to the coast. The main timing is going to be a west to east time frame. Keep that in mind. That we're showing a broad 12-hour window here, say from noon to midnight Sunday, but it'll be earlier in the afternoon, closer to Baton Rouge area, the Atchafalaya Basin, and then evolving further eastward. As it gets further eastward, it'll be more into the evening hours and should be out of the area, hopefully moving into Alabama before midnight on Sunday evening. So that's the time frame as we see it now. Now, what to expect? This is a system, given how far south it is, going to try to pass. It's going to put a lot of dynamics deep into the south. And so as a result, we're thinking that all modes of severity is possible. That means damaging winds, say along the squall line itself. Straight line wind damage is potentially can happen. We can expect some tornadoes because the turning of the winds as you get through the column, especially along that front itself, and some of the storms even well out ahead of the front, will be spinning in all likelihood. So there is a tornado risk there. And then this nature of the air mass that we're under right now, this spring, the middle of the spring right now, lately they've been capable of producing hail, and this should be the case again on Sunday. So expect all modes of severity. So we're hopeful that the rain we do get is beneficial. As you see on the Drought Monitor, this was updated for this morning. It was just released this morning. It's updated weekly and released by the folks in Lincoln, Nebraska on every Thursday morning. And this morning we're showing above abnormally dry conditions across most of the area. And along the immediate coast is actually considered deemed a D1 category moderate drought condition. Which means over the past 3 to 6 months or so, the rainfall has actually been in deficit. And fortunately, it's not really having a great deal of impact, aside from maybe some lawns that's drying out and some small impacts, localized impacts, let's say. Agriculturally, things are just starting to get underway as far as the growing season goes, so it hasn't had much of an impact yet. So any rainfall we do get this weekend will be most beneficial and kind of offset any kind of developing impacts that we may be having over the area. So in regards to the rainfall amounts that we're looking at, the models have been pinging on a much higher total, say in the 2 to 4, locally 6-inch range over the past couple of days. The progressive nature of this front now appears that the rain will be moving through rather quickly, and as a result may not get as much as we originally thought. So with that, we're thinking 1 to 2 inches generally speaking across most of the area, and some of the local heavier storms that has a greater efficiency rate may produce maybe on the order of, say, 2-inch per hour rates at times, and as a result you could get maybe some localized 2 to 4 inches in some places. That won't be as widespread, that'll be very localized. So let's call it, generally speaking, 1 to 2 inches across the area. And most of this will fall a little bit on Saturday with the warm front, and then the bigger part of it will fall on Sunday with the squall line and frontal passage, cold frontal passage on Sunday. Once again, that'll be from west to east. So in summary, wrapping things up here, we're looking at things turning cooler with some showers and thunderstorms overnight tonight, later tonight, but should be dissipating as we get into the morning hours on Friday. And then return to warm and breezy and humid conditions like we've had the past couple of days. That'll return on Saturday ahead of the system as it's developing and approaching over the southern plain states. That bulk of weather that takes place on Saturday over Texas will be moving into our area Sunday, Easter Sunday. Unfortunately, it's a holiday, and it'll be an active kind of a weather day for the holidays. But we'll be turning much cooler and drier on the other side of that as we get into the early part of next week. And once again, the Mississippi River remains above flood. Well, we thank you for tuning in today, and we hope you have a pleasant weekend as it were, and stay safe from the weather as well as the fight with the coronavirus. We'll see you next week.